Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, I'm going to be making two Slimline cards, and these are Slimline cards using the Whimsy Stamps Dog Bone die set. I'm also going to be incorporating the Sunny Studios Puppy Parents stamp set into one of the cards in order to make a cute scene. So here's a look at the Whimsy Stamps Dog Bone die set. It is a slimline size, so you have the large die that makes the actual bone, and it does have some stitching along the edges of that bone. There's also some other fun dies in that set, such as a dog bowl with food, there's a collar, and there's a letter D, and just some other fun elements that you can incorporate on your cards. And here's a look at the Sunny Studio Puppy Parents stamp set. It has all of these cute puppies. There's a larger and a smaller puppy of the same breed, so you can have, for example, the parent and then the child dog. And then there's also a dog house, and then there's some sentiments for and amazing, and then you can say mom, dad, mum, daddy. You can also say you're the best. There's also a sentiment that says, home is wherever you are. And as always, all products that I use in my video today will be in the description box below. So for my first card, I die cut the large bone out of just some white cardstock. I am going to ink up the edges with some light brown ink. I just wanted to have a little bit of a color there on the edge of that dog bone. This card is actually going to be the dog bone on an actual slimline card base, and in my next card that I do, I'm going to actually be making this dog bone as a shaped card, so the actual bone will be the card base, so stay tuned for that. I die cut the collar, which also has the bone, out of some red cardstock and some craft cardstock. And for the bone, I'm just inking up the edges in some of the same light brown ink, and here I'm just trimming off part of that collar because I only need the bone, and then I'll be able to piece that right on top of the red die cut piece. So you can see the collar has the bone hanging as almost like a charm on that collar. So I'm just going to glue that bone directly onto the red piece, and then I'm going to take some red ink and just put some ink along the edges of the collar. Next, I die cut the letters possum, and I used the Stamps of Life solid alphabet die set to die cut these letters out of some blue cardstock. And the only letter I did not die cut is the O, and I'm just using the collar in place of the O. So I'm putting these letters, as you can see, a little bit wonky. I didn't want them completely straight. Of course, if you wanted them straight, you always have the option of doing that. And I thought about finding a stamp that says you are or your, and putting it there at the top to say your possum, but instead I just chose to use the little paw prints that came in that Sunny Studio stamp set and stamp out some paw prints there on the card. And this card is the perfect card to give any dog lover in your life, just a card to tell them that they are awesome. Next, I'm going to cut down for a slimline card base. So I have a piece of craft cardstock that I cut down to 8.5 by 7, and then I score it at 3.5 inches on the 7-inch side. And then I just fold that cardstock in half and then just press down along that score line, and there's the card base. So next I'm going to take a piece of pattern paper. This is just some pattern paper that I had in my stash. It's actually from the Echo Park A Slice of Summer collection, and I just cut that down to 3 3/8 by 8 3/8, and I put the bone on top of that pattern paper, and then that piece of pattern paper will be glued down to the slimline card base. And that will complete my first card. So moving on to my second card, I'm using the Sunny Studio Puppy Parents stamp set. I'm also using my Misti. I'm actually going to take some washi tape just to tape down the actual stamp set to the door of the Misti. That way I don't have to take each individual stamp off of that plastic sheet and put it on the Misti itself. I can just stamp the entire stamp set at one time. So I also have a piece of Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock that I'm going to use for stamping, and I'm using my Memento Tuxedo black ink, which is good for alcohol marker coloring because I am going to be using my Copics to color these images up. So I inked up the stamp and then just pressing that down really well to get a good impression. I will have to ink it up a few times just to make sure that it's dark enough before I start coloring those images. So I'm going to go ahead and color up my images using my Copic markers. I will put all of the colors that I use down below in the description box and on my blog in case you're interested in seeing those colors close up. And I'm going to go ahead and set this to music while you watch the coloring. If you do not want to watch the coloring, you can bypass this by moving forward to timestamp 9 minutes and 21 seconds. So I die cut the dog bone out of some Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I am going to be making a cloud background. I also have my Lawn Fawn, it's a Slimline cloud stencil that I'm going to be using for the cloud images here, and I'm just basically taking that cloud stencil and I put it there across the top of the dog bone using my Distress Oxide ink in the Tumbled glass color, and I'm just inking up the top of that stencil, and each line that I go down I will turn that stencil upside down because you can see that there is another cloud stencil in another pattern at the bottom. So there's actually a cloud stencil at the top and one at the bottom, and they are in different shape clouds. So you can use both of those interchangeably to get a different cloud shape. So once I have all that inked up, I'm just adding some ink to the bottom. Next, I'm using the Sunny Studios Slimline Nature border. It's the grass border in that set. Comes with like 4 different borders, I believe. And I just die cut this grass die out of some green cardstock. And once I die cut the grass, I'm actually going to take the bone, just positioning that grass where I want it on the bone, and then I'm just going to add some washi tape to the die and connect it to that grass cardstock piece and die cut that out, because what that does is it gives me the stitching along the bottom of the bone. So I wanted the stitching to be consistent all along the outside of the bone, so that's why I die cut that piece out of the bone as well. It also gives me the exact bone shape, so I don't need to worry about cutting off the excess and making sure that it's a perfect shape. I did add some green ink to that cardstock just to add some dimension there, or texture, to the grass, and then I'm going to add some glue to the back of that cardstock and add it to the bone. So I'm just making a cute little outdoor scene on this bone. I went ahead and placed all my images onto that scene, and then I'm just gluing them down. And I want to let you know that there is a die set that is available, so if you want to die cut your images, you can purchase that die set. It is an extra purchase. And I actually did not. I actually fussy cut all mine out. I actually told myself that I wasn't going to buy any more dies. I'm actually looking into a scan and cut. And I don't have one yet, but I'm looking into purchasing one of those so that I can save money on dies. So I wanted to add a sun to this scene. So I die cut this little sun die that I had in my stash. It was part of the Stamps of Life Shadow Box die set. Just die cut that out of some yellow cardstock. I put it there on the corner of that bone. I'm not sure I like how it looks in that corner, but it's gonna have to do because there was no taking that up once I added the glue to that. So I'm gonna turn this card into a slimline card. So I took a piece of 8.5 by 11 sheet of white cardstock, folded it in half, and I'm placing the die slightly above the fold in that cardstock. I'm adding some washi tape just to keep that die in place, and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine, and it gives me a shaped card base. So it's shaped exactly like that dog bone. But before I add my decorated piece to the actual card base, I am stamping out a sentiment, and the sentiment says, "You're the best." And that's also from that stamp set. So I'm going to go ahead and add glue to the top of the card base, and then I will add my decorated piece right to the top of that. Just making sure that it's lined up perfectly. And this again is a slimline sized card, so it will fit in a slimline envelope. So if you're interested in any of these products, please check out my links in the description box below. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more card making tutorials. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.